Unlock divine peace, a 3 a.m. morning prayer for unstoppable blessings in your life now. In the dead of night, when the clock struck 3, something extraordinary began to unfold. A chilling silence gripped the air, and shadows danced like restless spirits in the corners of darkened rooms. No one could have foreseen the series of bizarre events that would kick off from that very moment. It was a witching hour, filled with secrets and whispers, a time when reality thinned, and the veil between the known and the unknown quivered with electric anticipation. What would follow sent ripples of dread and excitement throughout the sleepy town, awakening dormant fears and buried dreams alike. As a faint glow seeped through the window of an old, creaky house at the end of Maple Street, it flickered like a beacon in the dense fog. Some said it was merely a faulty bulb, but those in the know had no doubt. They exchanged knowing glances, murmurs of enchantments and blessings passed from neighbor to neighbor, igniting curiosity like wildfire. The story began with the inexplicable disappearance of the family's beloved dog, a scruffy little thing named Rufus, mere days before this strange phenomenon. It created a haunting void felt by everyone. Lights would flicker and strange howls could be heard echoing through the night, leaving the spectators with their hearts racing in their chests. Suddenly, the eerie hum of the night was shattered by a splash and a terrified scream. The town's local newspaper editor, Marcy, was the first to see it, a figure emerging from the depths of the lake nearby, its hair glistening like silver under the pale moonlight. The residents began to gather, their expressions a mix of horror and wonder, the panic palpable in the air. "What in the world is that?" whispered a voice from the back, trembling with anxiety. The tension was thick. You could feel the breath of the crowd hitching as they, too, leaned closer and closer to get a better look. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But just as everyone began to piece together what they were witnessing, the figure collapsed to the shore, shrouded in mist. What lay upon the ground was no ordinary creature. It seemed to pulsate with unnatural energy, shimmering ever so slightly. The crowd gasped collectively, the breath caught in their throats, eyes wide with disbelief. A woman's voice floated through the air, breaking the spell of silence. "Is it alive?" Panic turned into a wild mix of intrigue and fear. They edged closer, hearts racing, minds tinged with something greater than curiosity. A bead of fury or perhaps hope curled deep in their chests, fighting to break free. What happened next would change them forever, as if fate was pulling them into a wild spin of chaos and revelation far beyond their comprehension. Did they witness a miracle, or something sinister coming to claim their very souls? As the sun began to rise, casting golden fingers through the fog, they braced themselves for the answers that waited just beyond the horizon. The crowd remained frozen, their expressions a mixture of confusion and awe. As the fog began to dissipate, they could make out the figure more clearly. It was a woman, drenched and frail, with locks of silver hair that cascaded over her shoulders like moonlight. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing orbs of deep, unsettling blue. Just moments before, suspense swirled in the air, but now it seemed as if all sound had been snatched from their lips, leaving only the rhythmic pounding of their hearts. "Help me," she rasped, her voice barely above a whisper. Those two words acted as a magnet, pulling them closer. Marcy was the first to step forward, her instincts overwhelming her fear. The others hesitated, glancing at one another, silently debating the wisdom of approaching a stranger washed up in the eerie light of dawn. Suddenly, a loud growl sliced through the morning stillness, the unmistakable sound of a dog. Panic surged once more. "Rufus!" someone shouted. In a wild frenzy, the townspeople began to scatter, looking for the little dog who had gone missing days prior. But their heartbeats quickened when the ground quaked beneath them, as if the very earth was responding to their fears. The woman took a shaky breath, raising her hand, and an unseen force cascaded from her fingertips, sending shivers down their spines. "What are you?" Marcy asked, her voice shaking, but determination anchored her feet to the spot. The woman's lips curled into a sad smile, and there was a glint of something ancient, something untamed, in her gaze. "I am the keeper of the balance." Chatter erupted amongst the crowd, a mixture of disbelief and anger. The keeper? What balance? They found solace in demanding answers, yearning for any thread of understanding that could save them from the chaos that was unfolding. In the sudden silence that enveloped the crowd, she raised her hand again, this time palm outward, as if warding off shadows lurking at the edges. "You've summoned me." The dog Rufus, he was a vessel. A collective gasp echoed through the throng of onlookers, and Marcy's heart raced. She felt a swell of panic joining forces with an inescapable curiosity. "You're saying Rufus is a vessel for what?" The woman's eyes glimmered with otherworldly power. "The lake is a portal. It's alive, feeding off your hopes and fears. By losing him, you've drawn me to you. But now, the balance is tipping." A frenzied howl exploded from the woods, sending even the bravest of the crowd recoiling in terror. There, emerging from the dewy mist, was a ravenous shape, something monstrous, with eyes that sparkled like shards of obsidian. A deep rumble reverberated through the ground as the figure drew closer, and the townspeople scattered in chaos. "Protect it!" The woman cried out, but her voice was a mere whisper against the howl of panic. "If you do not stand together, it will consume you all." Marcy felt a jolt in her chest. She glanced back at the shivering townsfolk, fear etched on their faces. This was no ordinary day. They stood at the precipice of something dark and wretched. But she could barely comprehend what that meant. Would they defend their town, each other, even if it meant confronting the depth of their darkest fears? As the creature neared, only one thought burned through the haze of panic: this was just the beginning. What would they do when the truth behind the balance finally revealed itself? And in the whispering wind, another question loomed: who would be brave enough to fight for their lives? The screeching howl of the creature reverberated through the trees, making the ground tremble beneath Marcy's feet. Her breath came in quick gasps, and she glanced around at the townspeople, their expressions a blend of fear and confusion. The fog remained thick, but the monstrous shape pressed closer, its shadow stretching ominously as the sun began its ascent. "Get back!" someone shouted, trying to rally what little courage they had left. But the panic fractured their resolve, causing them to scatter like leaves caught in a gust of wind. They stumbled backward, faces pale with dread, lost in a wave of terror. Marcy's heart raced as she took a step forward, compelled by something deeper than fear. "We can't just run," she urged, turning to the woman with silver hair. "What are we supposed to do?" The keeper's eyes flickered, they sparkled with ancient wisdom and sorrow. "You must unite your minds and stand firm. Only through your shared light can the darkness be vanquished." Rumbling echoed still through the woods, and the crowd's energy shifted, mixing urgency with uncertainty. The creature was almost upon them, a horrifying mass of teeth and shadow. Marcy felt sweat trickle down her back as the reality of her courage pressed against her chest. "Together!" Marcy called, her voice slicing through the chaos. "We have to stand together. We can't let it overwhelm us." But doubt clouded their faces. A man stepped back and exclaimed, "What can we do against that thing?" Marcy clenched her fists, anger sparking within her. What if Rufus is the key? If he was just a vessel, then we need to reclaim what was lost. We can't let fear take hold. There's no time. The woman interrupted. "You must confront your fears, each of you. Remember who you are, connect with each other. Focus on the good." The growl morphed into a roar, and just as the creature lunged from the mist, the townsfolk froze again, paralyzed by dread. Marcy shut her eyes tightly, letting the echo of laughter from better days seep into her mind. Images of summer picnics, children playing, and neighbors helping each other flashed through her thoughts. Think. We can do this. She whispered, feeling the warmth of connection radiate from her core. As if sensing their unity, the monstrous figure hesitated. Its eyes narrowed, reflecting confusion, a fleeting moment of vulnerability. Encouraged, Marcy called out, "Everyone, hold hands. Let us channel our strength." One by one, individuals began to join her, slowly bridging the gaps of fear. The air thickened as they formed a circle, a fragile but powerful ring of humanity. Hearts raced, breaths synchronized, but together they faced the encroaching darkness. "Now!" the keeper urged, and everyone concentrated, channeling their shared memories and hopes toward the grotesque beast. Light cascaded from their fingertips, brightening the shadows and illuminating the dark forest. The creature roared, shaking with rage, but the light pierced through its form like an arrow. Marcy felt sweat drip from her brow, the heat of their collective energy illuminating the gloom. Fear began to ripple in her chest, but she clung to the warmth of her neighbors, drawing strength from their shared resolve. "Hold on!" she shouted, battling her own doubt. "We're stronger than this." The light intensified, and the respiratory rhythm of the creature altered. Moments passed, stretching into eternity, as they witnessed the primal entity stumble. But just when Marcy thought victory might be within reach, a fierce crack split the air. The figure recoiled, but then, with one last ear-splitting howl, it surged forward again, its shape shifting and contorting into something even more terrifying. An unspeakable force erupted from the woods, pushing everything back. "Faster! Give everything you have!" the keeper cried. But doubt suddenly crept into Marcy's heart again. Could they really do this? The shadows loomed heavier, tendrils snaking toward them, suffocating all hope. And as the creature's eyes glinted with a predatory hunger, a chilling thought coursed through her mind: had they already lost? And in that moment of despair, just before the dust settled, a blinding flash illuminated the clearing. What would it reveal? Who would emerge unscathed? The blinding flash ripped through the murky darkness, painting the twisted trees in stark, white brilliance. Every man and woman squinted against the glare, their hearts pounding in unison, a collective beat forged by unwavering resolve. The creature paused, its malevolent eyes reflecting the strange light, confusion registering on its grotesque face. For the briefest of moments, Marcy felt the rush of energy, like a jolt of electricity surging through her veins, washing over her fear and filling the cracks in her confidence. "Channel it!" she cried again, gripping the nearest hand, a young mother trembling beside her. "We can't let it win." The townspeople rallied, squeezing each other's hands, pooling their vibrations of hope, laughter, and love. But just as it seemed the tides might turn, the light flickered momentarily, as the creature snarled, shaking off the energy that had begun to pierce its shadowy form. It turned, unveiling a maw filled with jagged teeth, the breath reeking of decay and chaos. "Focus on the light," the keeper urged, her voice now commanding, almost regal amid the pandemonium. "Remember those we've lost. Find their strength within you." Images surged in Marcy's mind, her father's kind smile, the warmth of summer nights by the fire pit, Rufus's unwavering loyalty. She pushed these thoughts outwards, feeling the pulse of collective memories charging through the circle. "We are stronger than our fears." Behind the monstrous figure, the darkness grew thicker, consuming the clearing like a black cloak. Shadows slithered and coiled, reaching hungrily toward their ring of light. Panic brewed anew, fear seeped into hearts, clawing at those who were close to faltering. Marcy could see it in the eyes of her neighbors, reservations, doubts unspoken. They felt small against the nothingness that threatened to swallow them whole. "Breathe," she urged, spotting a flicker of hesitation in the mother's eyes. "We draw strength from one another. Feel the love. Breathe with me." And just as they inhaled, a tremor rippled through the ground beneath them. The creature's roar shattered the air, a spine-chilling reminder of its looming presence. The force manifested, pushing against the light, creating a vortex of tension that forced Marcy to stagger, but then she heard it, a soft murmur. It grew louder, an echo of voices rising in resonance. More joined in. We are together. They sang slowly. We are the light. Marcy's heart surged. No longer simply a plea, this tandem chant began shaping their fears into fortitude, their collective despair morphing into an unbreakable barrier. The rhythm quickened, matching the pounding of their hearts. The creature howled in rage, its form shifting into something even darker, more monstrous. Long, sleeker tentacles emerged from the shadows, thrashing furiously. They tore through the air, and the townsfolk stumbled, grasping at each other for support. Cries of shock erupted, children cowered. Marcy's grip tightened, she could feel their love so tangible, so real. Don't back down. Her voice resonated. We've fought hard for this. Together. And in a moment of sheer determination, the collective force coalesced like a star about to explode. They released their fears and doubts into the air, converting darkness into brilliant tendrils of luminescence, but then came a crash, splintering wood as the creature charged again, doubt creeping into everyone's hearts once more. Breath caught in Marcy's throat as she caught sight of the creature's true form inching closer, the details sharpening like a blade mouth agape with predatory fervor, and just as despair threatened to envelop them, a second blinding flash erupted through the mist. But this time, it illuminated their shadows, showing what lay behind. A secret long hidden, buried in the mists of uncertainty. What are we truly fighting for? Marcy whispered, as the realization dawned like a cruel awakening, cracking the shell of unity they built so fiercely. The fog began to clear, and the townsfolk gasped as ethereal figures emerged, but were they allies or vengeful? Spirits, the answer hung in the air, thick and suffocating, as the creature bared its teeth, poised to strike once more. Would they find the strength to confront their past? Or would the darkness consume them all? The air crackled with tension, electrified by unspoken fears. Marcy stood at the center, heart racing, eyes darting between the faces of her neighbors, each etched with confusion and desperation. Shadows stretched behind them, deepening into nightmarish forms. Ethereal figures emerged from the fog, hovering like whispers from the grave. Were they lost souls seeking vengeance or lost loved ones returned to guide them? A chill ran down her spine. This was no mere battle, it felt like a reckoning. The light flickered again, illuminating the faces of those who had succumbed to the darkness, relatives, friends. Their expressions were strangers' masks twisted with grief. Marcy swallowed hard, her throat tight as she confronted the haunting specters. No! A voice erupted from the crowd, a young man, determination glinting in his eyes despite the encroaching shadows. They're not here to harm us. They're here to help. Marcy seized his words, weaving them into the fabric of her resolve. You're right. They're our strength. She shouted. They remind us who we are. We fight not just for ourselves, but for all who were taken. The townsfolk rallied, forming a larger circle, their hands linking together more tightly. Tiny glimmers of light appeared within the darkness, each one kindled by a shared memory or an unsaid promise. The creature bared its teeth, its chaos now a desperate howl as it realized the tide of emotions surged against it. Find your light. Marcy shouted, locking eyes with the mother she had held during this struggle. It's in every memory, in every shared laugh. Don't let it go. The words surged like a wave, crashing against their fears and drawing out whispers of joy, stories of laughter, with each shared memory breathed into life, a childhood game, a spring festival, the scent of freshly baked pies. The light intensified. The ethereal figures sparkled, they weren't malevolent. They twirled like a soft wind, guiding the townsfolk to remember the warmth amidst the decay, but the creature lurked, its form flickering like a dying flame, desperate to consume. Tentacles reached, snatching towards the vulnerability, seeking to extinguish the spark of hope. Push back. Someone cried from the line. Their arms strained as they pressed against the encroaching darkness. Marcy felt the energy bloom, a life force pulsating, rippling through the chain. In unity, we stand. Marcy's voice rang clear, breaking through the cacophony of howls. Together we rise. Let them hear us. The chant grew louder. We are the light. We are the love. Just then, a figure in the mist stepped forward. This one was different. Dressed in the kind of light that seemed alive, her face softened by compassion. Marcy recognized her. It was Josie, a friend lost too soon. The same warmth wrapped around her, enveloping her in a sacred memory. Marcy. Josie's voice echoed softly, filled with an understanding only the departed could possess. You can break the cycle. Not just for you, but for all who stand with you. The creature recoiled. This was the battle cry it feared. The power of love and memory against despair, both clawing for dominance. But you have to make a choice. Josie pressed, looking through Marcy, past the turmoil of extinguished lives and the weight of shared pain. What is your truth? What do you choose to fight for? Marcy's breath caught, uncertainty swirled within her. She thought of everyone gathered around her, their faces, their losses, the threat encroaching. I choose, she began slowly, the words heavy with significance, to fight for love. For those who have faded into shadows, to guide us, not haunt us. The air ignited. The townsfolk roared as light burst from every heart, energies merging into a brilliant sun, overpowering the looming darkness. They surged forward, light radiating from Marcy's heart, compelling everyone onward. But just as victory seemed within grasp, the creature screamed, thrashing wildly, doubling back as if wounded. Shadows flickered around it like a dying star. It writhed, and then shot toward the ethereal figures. Its target wasn't there. Light after all, but their shadows. Marcy froze, the shocking realization stinging deep. No. Were they willing to sacrifice their past for a fleeting moment of safety? A decision loomed in the air, pivotal and deadly. Would they reclaim their memories or let the darkness claim victory? As the tumultuous battle carried on, with Marcy at its center, the outcome hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of despair and hope. The shadows pulsated and twisted, hungry for the essence of lost hope. Marcy's hands trembled as she felt the tug of her memories slipping away. The faces of her neighbors strained in desperation, their voices mixed into a symphony of fear and resolve, but above them all, a gnawing uncertainty pulled at her gut. Had they linked their hopes too tightly to their shadows? Marcy. We have to hold on. The young man's voice soared above the chaos, his eyes wild with determination. He was her anchor, the light in the swirling darkness, yet the air around them felt dense with dread. The ethereal figures swirled gracefully, fending off the tentacles that lashed towards them, but Marcy knew they couldn't hold forever. Every flicker of their forms screamed of their own struggles against the void sustained only by the love that flickered in their memories. She swallowed hard. We can't let them take what remains of us. Every heartbeat echoed with urgency. The light of hope in her heart flickered with volatility, as if reflecting the doubt that clawed at her very essence. Draw from your shadows, but do not surrender them. Marcy shouted, finding strength in her own words. Remember your love. Hold it secure. As if called forth by her plea, the townsfolk rallied. They grasped for the warm tendrils of their past, pulling strength from laughter and tears alike. Faces, now glistening with sweat and determination, surged with a fierce glow as shared experiences ignited under the weight of defiance. The creature lurched, its eyes burning with hatred. Tentacles snapped, seeking to devour the love bottled within their memories. Marcy felt it, surging towards her like a predator hungry for her light. No! She screamed, as the wave of darkness approached. Not today. The wind shifted fiercely, swirling converted energy around them, igniting pockets of light that erupted forth like tiny stars scattered in a velvet sky. Each spark represented a connection, each memory a promise unbroken by loss. Hold on. The young man echoed, his voice finding a new resonance. We are more than our shadows. They are part of us, but not all we are. We are our memories. We are the future. With renewed vigor, the townsfolk responded, voices raising into a unified battle cry. We won't let it take us. We will rise. The sheer force of their collective will surged into the void, a beacon that shimmered defiantly against the encroaching darkness. Marcy's heart raced, pulsating with fire. The light was alive, strong, and ever-present within them. But still, a nagging fear clung to her thoughts like vines, eager to stifle the flame. What if it is too late? She wondered, uncertainty coursing beneath her fragile bravado. What do we do, Marcy? A woman's voice rang out, filled with anguish but laced with hope. Marcy inhaled deeply, tangible resolve forcing its way through her worries. We trust. We unite. We share. As the pressure mounted, the very air crackled around them, intertwining light and shadow into a tempest. Tendrils reached ever closer, feeling their way with chilling precision. Suddenly, Josie appeared once more through the gloom, her face calm amidst the chaos. Marcy! Listen! She urged, her voice buoying forth like a lifeline. Free yourself. Don't let fear dictate your truth. What if it's the shadows standing between you and the choice to seal this fight? Decide now. What is your truth? A jolt shot through Marcy as doubt collided with clarity. The moment bore down on her, urgency warred with reality. It was time to act, to take control of what remained. I choose to embrace them. She shouted, the very fibers of her being alight with declaration. To love my shadows. They have shaped me. The townsfolk mirrored her words, the light they generated swelled with newfound power, blooming into a radiant diadem around them. Was their struggle for clarity for the past they had yet to claim, but as Marcy gazed into the heart of the mass looming before them, uncertainty slashed through as sharp as glass. Could they truly fight the darkness while holding on to their shadows? As they surged forward, the creature howled, caught between light and dark, an embodiment of everything they had struggled against. What would happen when both sides collided, their collective essence hanging in the balance? Would the answers be worth the cost? Or was the darkness too determined to fall? The answer lay not just in their memories but in the very air that thickened around them, pressing for resolution. Would they claim their truth before it was too late? Marcy's pulse raced like a ticking clock, each beat resonating with the weight of uncertainty. As light and dark coiled tighter around her, the sounds of the struggle drowned in a roaring silence. Time twisted, each moment stretching like a taut string about to snap. She could feel the energy of her neighbors, their collective strength wrapping around her, emboldening her for what lay ahead. We can't give in. We have to trust ourselves. She shouted, her voice cutting through the haze. The townsfolk rallied, their faces a tapestry of fear and hope. But doubt gnawed at Marcy's resolve like a relentless beast. Could they really harness their shadows without being consumed? The creature's growl echoed in the darkness, a low, rumbling threat that sent shivers through her spine. It loomed larger, its tentacles snaking through the air, seeking out the light that flickered within them. The closer it came, the more despair clawed at her heart, chilling her soul. She could see it, ever closer, a silhouette of terror and malice. What if their memories weren't strong enough? Out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Josie, her unwavering presence a beacon amidst the chaos. Marcy. Josie's voice was firm, more than a plea, it was a command. You can't just embrace your shadows. You need to strike a balance. Share your fears with the light. Don't let them consume your spirit. A damning thought flickered in Marcy's mind. Was she harboring the very monsters that threatened them? An icy chill settled in her stomach. But before she could succumb, a flicker of clarity rose within. I won't abandon any part of me, she bellowed, choosing defiance over despair. I'll honor my past, but I will not be ruled by it. The townspeople echoed her resolve. A surge of energy pulsed through the group, their disparate memories weaving into a brilliant tapestry of shared experience. They interconnected, lacing their past struggles with their present fight, igniting a cohesive force that shimmered with potential. As the creature lunged, the light sparked brighter, a blinding flash that temporarily silenced the oppressive darkness. Tentacles writhed and recoiled at the light, hissing in frustration. "Now! Gather your memories!" Marcy shouted, aiming to channel the unified spirit of the townsfolk. "Hold on to every laugh, every tear, and every moment of joy." In that instant, as memory collided with intention, ethereal figures danced within the blinding light, lifetimes of love and sorrow transforming into a protective barrier. The creature's howls intensified, a raw scream of fury and despair that reverberated through the air like thunder, yet, amid the chaos, a crack formed within Marcy's heart. What if their light wasn't enough? What if they lost everything? She stumbled, nearly collapsing under the weight of such profound fear. A flicker of doubt threatened to undo the resolve they shared, but the collective courage around her pushed back, steadying her. One by one, her neighbors lifted their heads, faces reflecting determination. "You are not alone, Marcy." The young man stepped forward, his eyes blazing fiercely, a steadfast light that pierced through her wavering spirit. "We are in this together." It was then Marcy felt the power breathe back into her, heat flooding her veins, binding them all in a shared truth. "We choose light." The chant rose, a wave of sound crashing against the darkness that threatened to smother their hope. In that pivotal moment, the eerie glow pulsated brighter, illuminating intricately carved paths that connected them all. Each path buzzed with energy, carrying their hopes, their shadows, their futures toward the beast that snarled before them, but as they surged forward, twin forces in the dance of light and dark, an unsettling question flickered in the back of Marcy's mind. What if embracing her shadows unleashed something even darker? Would holding tight to their flickering hopes cost them more than their memories? The answer awaited as they charged, a clash that could shift the fate of everything they cherished. Would they emerge whole, reflected in the brilliance they ignited, or would they be swallowed whole beneath the monstrous despair? The collision drew nearer, and the stakes had never felt more dire. Marcy's heart thundered as the blinding light emanated from the townsfolk, pushing back against the creature's malevolence. With every step they took together, their chant echoed stronger, reverberating through the night air like a battle hymn. The air crackled around them, a mixture of hope and primal fear swirling in a tempest that felt alive. The creature shrieked, a horrific wail of rage that made the ground tremble beneath them. Its tentacles lashed out, thrashing wildly, searching for a way to extinguish the light. Marcy could see the panic etched on her neighbors' faces and the way their hands gripped one another tightly. It was a united front, but one that felt so fragile with the looming darkness. "Stay close," she urged, an anchor of determination tightening her voice even as doubt nudged at her edges. The words burst from her like a flare in the night. They couldn't falter now. She had seen the memories, not just their own but also the collective memories of laughter and pain that flowed between them, binding them in this pivotal hour. With a deep breath, she focused on the warmth that surged within, pulling forth every cherished moment, every brave step taken in the face of fear. "Channel your strongest memory," she called out, eyes wide and filled with urgency. "Let it shine through the fear. Let it become our weapon." Marcy seized the memories flashing through her mind, a moment of her mother's laughter, the warmth of a summer's day, the joy of community celebrations. Power ignited within her, and she felt it fan outwards, a ripple of energy that sparked within the townsfolk. One by one, they began to share their memories aloud, voices overlapping in a melody that drowned out the creature's furious roars. Suddenly, a massive shadow darted toward Marcy, tentacles reaching with an ominous hunger. Time slowed as she watched in horror. "No!" she screamed, but even her voice felt small against the booming growl of the creature. A knot of fear tightened in her stomach, viscous and heavy. "Marcy!" Josie shrieked, breaking through her terror. "Channel it. Don't let it in." And just like that, clarity surged back. They were not just fighting against a creature, they were confronting the fears it represented. Each tentacle was a shadow, a fear beckoning her to embrace despair. She lifted her own hands, drawing in their memories, transforming them into a blinding beacon. "We will not be your prey." Her voice reverberated against the darkness, unwavering as she faced the oncoming threat. There was a moment frozen, perfect, where every memory merged into a singular surge. The cacophony of their hopes crescendoed as the light erupted from them in a glorious display of unity. It washed over the creature, searing through its murkiness as the air filled with the scent of smoke and singed shadow. The creature writhed, tentacles retracting, as howls turned desperate. With each shimmer of their light, its form grew smaller, more distorted. The townsfolk felt it too, the rising tide of victory coursing through them, but just as triumph seemed within reach, a new sensation rippled through Marcy like a whisper in the quiet, a sudden fear retreating, only to reveal something more sinister lurking just beyond the light. She glanced around, seeing something shift in her neighbor's eyes. Uncertainty was festering among their triumph. "Something's wrong," she shouted, but it was only her voice, shakier now against the tide of energy they had summoned. As the creature howled one final time, an otherworldly wail that shook the very ground, a dark shape detached itself from the creature. It spiraled into the night sky, an unidentifiable mass that felt like the continuation of their fears. It hovered, gleaming with malice, and frozen in the air like a promise of retribution. "What the hell is that?" Josie whispered, terror etched across her face. Marcy's heart plummeted. They had unleashed something they couldn't yet comprehend. The battle was far from over. The townsfolk stood together, looking into the storm that brewed above them, powerful but unnerving. A question burned in Marcy's mind that begged for urgency. Had their bravery just awakened a darkness greater than the one they had already faced? As the shadows began to swirl around the new figure, Marcy's resolve turned to ice. What awaited them in this unknown night? Would they be consumed by their own unleashed creation? As the shape loomed closer, the true fight was only beginning. The pulse of dread surged through Marcy, each thrum in her veins matching the chaotic pulse of the dark shape above. The townsfolk stood, riveted, waiting for the unknown entity to manifest its intentions. A chilling wind swept through the square, curling around their legs like a serpent, whispering promises of despair. "Can we still fight it?" Josie's voice trembled, a fragile thread against the swirling storm. Marcy turned to her friend, uncertainty reflected in her eyes. The collective courage they had summoned earlier now felt like a thin veil. The malevolent shape descended slowly, a monstrous silhouette against the shimmer of the remaining light. It flickered momentarily, like a dying flame, taunting them with every breath it took. Marcy could feel the weight of their memories shifting, hard-won joy dancing precariously with fear. "Stay together," she shouted, trying to breathe life into their faltering resolve. "Remember why we're here. Remember your families, your friends, the moments that fill your heart." But as she spoke, the dark entity expanded, threads of shadow weaving into grotesque forms. Faces emerged from the darkness, twisted and contorted, horrific reflections of hope turned to anguish. They were familiar faces, the once vibrant smiles now replaced with hollow eyes. The townsfolk gasped, recoiling in horror. "Stop it!" Marcy screamed, rage igniting in her chest. "You want to take our memories. You want to twist our love into fear." As if in response to her defiance, the darkness pulsed like a living creature, flickering violently with colors of despair. The town's energy faltered, leaving behind a residue of dread that seeped deep into their souls. The chants faltered. Sound turned into stuttering breaths. One by one, the townsfolk caught the infection of doubt creeping through their ranks. Marcy felt it gnawing at her, a vicious hunger to surrender. "Fight it," she urged, desperation rising. "This is what it wants. It thrives on our fear. Look at me. Look at the memories we fight to hold on to." Marcy squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to confront the shadows swirling within her. Uncertainty clawed at her, but she seemed to glimpse a flicker of light buried deep within, a radiant warmth cocooned in love, her mother's embrace when the world felt heavy. She opened her eyes and pushed against the fear. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the air. A woman stumbled back, clutching her chest. "It's too much. I can't." Another followed, then another, voices breaking under the weight of despair. "Form a circle," Marcy yelled, her voice rising above the chaos. "Hold hands. Focus on the light. We can do this together." Reluctantly, the townsfolk obeyed, forming a trembling circle. Marcy reached for Josie, their fingers lacing together. She concentrated on the flame of their unity, feeding off the remnants of hope each neighbor clung to. With every breath, she felt light flickering back to life, a fragile spark amid encroaching darkness. As their collective energy began to hum, a beam of blinding light shot upwards from their joined hands, illuminating the night sky. The creature hissed, recoiling from its own darkness. Marcy could feel the light growing stronger, empowering and cleansing, washing over each of them like a warm summer rain, but just as the darkness faltered, a voice like ice sliced through the air, laced with laughter. "You think you can extinguish what you've birthed?" It was a soothing yet sinister tone, resonating from that dark shape looming above. Marcy froze, heart pounding in her ears. "Who are you?" she demanded, forcing courage into her voice. "I am your darkest fears made flesh, a reflection of every doubt you've ever had. You cannot escape me," it crooned, sinister. "Embrace your despair." Marcy's breath hitched as the weight of those familiar faces intensified, twisting and morphing into deeper shadows. It was a tidal wave of despair crashing against their wall of light. Could the light truly stand against such an insidious force? Were they merely delaying the inevitable? As the diabolical laughter echoed around them, shadows whispered promises of betrayal and abandonment, threatening to pull them back into the grasp of dread. The townsfolk began to waver, voices breaking once more. "Marcy, we." Josie's voice trembled as she squeezed Marcy's hand tighter. But something within Marcy ignited like an unquenchable fire. They had fought too hard to give up now. With a fierce shout, she raised her chin, summoning the power of their joined might. "Together, we are stronger." The shadow lurked, but the town's heartbeat rallied, a symphony of hope echoing through the collective. As they breathed in, the darkness hesitated, the flickering light growing brighter and more defiant. Would it be enough? Could they truly confront the embodiment of their fears, face the darkness that had been within them all along? The air grew electric with tension, the outcome weighty with possibility as the shadows swirled ominously closer. Marcy could only wonder what devastating truths would rise to the surface in this perilous confrontation. Marcy stood resolute, her heart thundering like a drum, feeling the weight of her neighbors pressing against her, their breaths matching hers in a shared rhythm. Together, they formed a luminous barrier, fueled by memories and love, everything that they had fought for, everything that mattered. But the dark shape loomed, threatening to extinguish their flicker of hope. "Focus. Hold on to the light," Marcy cried, squeezing Josie's hand, feeling the warmth radiate between them. "Remember the laughter, the moments of joy." The creature, a swirling mass of despair and fury, moved closer, tentacles stretching out, reaching for the townsfolk, and seeking to snuff out every ounce of courage blossoming in their midst. The sinister whispers wound around them, promises of doubt and despair tangling in their minds. "You are weak," it taunted. "You cannot withstand what you have summoned." "No," Marcy shouted back, her voice cutting through the darkness like a beacon. "We are strong. We will rise above this." With every breath, the light expanded, flickering like eager flames igniting hope. Marcy took a deep breath, recalling the faces of those she had loved and lost, of Rufus wagging his tail, of joyful summers spent under the sun. Those memories were not just flickers, they formed a tapestry woven into her being. "Stand together," she urged, desperation colliding with defiance. A pulse of energy surged through the circle of hands, connecting their collective memories into a single force. The creature hesitated, its darkness folding in on itself as if recoiling from the impact of their brightness. "Channel your memories. Let them be your shield." Marcy insisted, her voice rising above the hovering dread. Think of the moments that have shaped you. Let them resonate. As memories flooded forth, a child's first steps, shared meals, and laughter echoing through the halls, a chorus of warmth blossomed, and each flicker of light poured into the darkness. The horrified faces of lost loved ones twisted in the darkness, but Marcy refused to turn away from them. They are here for a reason, she shouted. They guide us, not to haunt us. Let their love empower you. Marcy felt energy building within, bright and unyielding. Her neighbors responded, their collective wills igniting brighter, resonating with the very essence of what it meant to be alive. Moments that had once seemed lost surged forth as victories, transforming the very fabric of the light they wielded. The monstrous figure writhed, howling in pain as threads of light pierced through its shadowy form. It screeched, a howl that echoed across the landscape, yet there was something undeniably forced about it. Marcy noticed cracks forming in its surface, fissures of despair that couldn't sustain their dark facade any longer. Push back. The keeper's voice rang out, cutting through like a clarion call. Embrace your truth together. With renewed vigor, the townsfolk surged forward, pooling their strength and lighting the way. The darkness trembled, swirling about them with frantic desperation, but Marcy pressed on, refusing to back down. We are the memories, she shouted, her voice booming with the collective might of the town. We are the love and hope that refuse to be extinguished. As they drew nearer, the creature let out a final, desperate roar. Marcy closed her eyes, focusing, pulling every good memory she could muster into the light, channeling every ounce of hope and love. The last flicker of doubt ignited into an explosion of blinding brilliance. The darkness quaked as they danced around the monster, wrapping it in threads of light until it could take no more. Now! Marcy yelled, thrusting her hands forward, a capstone of strength sealing their unity. A burst of light erupted, an aurora piercing through the murkiness that cloaked the creature. The last vestiges of darkness screamed, swirling up and dissolving into nothingness. Gasps punctuated the air as silence settled in, like a lull after a storm. In that profound silence, the ethereal figures hovered momentarily before retreating, weaving back into the memories that would forever be part of the town. Marcy opened her eyes slowly, awareness blooming as the danger faded, her heart hammering with disbelief. Did we? Cheers erupted from the crowd, ringing out like joyous bells. They had confronted the monster within, banishing the darkness and reclaiming their light. But it was more than a battle fought, it was a journey of unity. Marcy looked around, seeing the glowing faces of neighbors illuminated by hope, all embodying a newfound resilience. They embraced each other, tears intermingled with laughter filling the air. Rufus barked from within the crowd, and the clamor of joy swept through them. The little dog dashed toward Marcy, tail wagging, bringing with him the warmth of a cherished connection. Laughter echoed as the realization settled in. They weren't just defending their town, they were reminded of their shared lives and the strength that lay in their togetherness. The keeper stepped forward, her silver hair glowing softly in the morning light. The balance has been restored. In confronting the darkness, you have discovered your light. Remember this moment. Love and connection are your greatest gifts. With one last glance around the crowd, Marcy felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over her. They had been forged in flames, and now they stood united, reflections of light dancing where darkness once loomed. As sunlight cascaded through the trees, illuminating the new day, Marcy knew that this was the beginning of something beautiful. They would cherish the memories and hold each other close. And just like that, they whispered a collective promise to never forget. The battle had been fought, their bonds would endure. Now, beyond the veil, a world awaited, one filled with hope and blessings that they would unlock together. If you felt this journey and want more heart-stirring tales, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button to fuel the algorithm and keep supporting our community. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this epic ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.